This past week, in German 88, we've been exploring the concept of coming to terms with Germany's past. Nearly 50 years after the fall of the Third Reich, Germany is still struggling with this concept, as it attempts to come to terms with the excessive human rights abuses that took place during World War II. Throughout literature, philosophy, and the cultural sphere, questions such as who was innocent, who was guilty, what is innocence, and what is guilt continue to haunt the German psyche. On February 24th of 2014, the Jerusalem Post published an article entitled, quote, German cartoon of Facebook CEO sparks anti-Semitic row. Following the WhatsApp purchase by Facebook, a German artist publishes a cartoon depicting Mark Zuckerberg as an octopus pirate hybrid that has its tentacles surrounding various computers and pieces of technology. At first glance at the image, the long, thin nose with a hooking curvature immediately jumps out at the viewer. This very attribute is what immediately caused an outrage in Germany, leaving the cartoonist to defend himself against anti-Semitic accusations. Critics claim the cartoon is starkly reminiscent of a 1938 Nazi cartoon depicting Winston Churchill as a Jewish octopus encircling the globe. Upon pulling up the 1938 cartoon referenced here, it's actually quite difficult to see the immediate resemblance. The tentacles of Winston Churchill are much thicker, fewer in number, and have a greater attention to detail, which Mark Zuckerberg's rendition lacks. Additionally, the head is small in size and lacks the prominent nose that upset viewers in the first place in the depiction of Mark. The cartoonist who drew Mark claims his work is simply a combination of an octopus and characters from Pirates of the Caribbean. In fact, when we look at images of Davy Jones from the film, the resemblance is uncanny, except for the nose. This leaves us to question why the long hook nose was included in the drawing. The exaggeration of features is common within caricature drawing, and although Mark doesn't necessarily have a nose to the extent of the one depicted, it definitely could have simply been exaggerated for the purpose of the image itself, having nothing to do with religious or racial context. Beyond the cartoon itself, this incident reveals the continual wrestling match Germany is having with its past. The fact that two different images were published on the same day, one with the long hook nose and one lacking the hook altogether, shows that the publishers still don't know what was acceptable, what was not, and how the public would respond to such an image in their own country. Looking beyond media and the cultural sphere, evidence of this blatant struggle of working through the past is omnipresent. In an article by Vicki Lawrence, she eloquently encapsulates the complexity of Germany's past through an analysis of a German novella by Peter Schneider. Within the novella, a sheltered German son living in post-war Germany is enlightened when his aunt tells him his father was a Nazi and is seeking refuge in Brazil. Quoting directly from her writings, the novella is an anguished examination of the conflicting demands placed on this generation to both love and to hate, to accept and to reject, to take on the burdens of guilt, and yet to go out and create their own lives. Though the coming generations are removed from the atrocities of wars themselves, they are never fully separated, due to the intertwined generations and familial love. How can a past be more complex than learning your parents, whom you admire for their courage and love, either directly or indirectly, played a role in the massacre of millions of innocent people? Was it really their fault, or were they simply caught up in forces outside their control? Whether the nose was appropriate or not in the cartoon is still up for debate, but this image and its public reaction does show that Germany will continue to struggle with its past far into the foreseeable future.